I have fantastic news. The World Cup is just 32 days away, and we will be previewing the entire thing, every single team, with one video per day until the World Cup begins. I'm tremendously excited to do this. I've been planning it forever, and we will be starting all the way up the top left corner there in Group A with the team from Pot 1 in Group A, and that is Qatar. Now, obviously, Qatar comes with baggage. Not only did Sepp Blatter make a bag when he basically sold the World Cup to Qatar in the first place, but there have been documented human rights violations in the construction of the World Cup stadiums. Now, the numbers vary depending on who you ask, but one death while building a freaking stadium is too many. I don't know a lot about this. Obviously, I am a YouTuber, but if you want to learn more, there is an article from the Washington Post at the top of the description of this video that was written by somebody who spent a year with the migrant workers, and I highly recommend that you read that so you can understand what went on behind this World Cup. What I do know how to talk about, though, is the actual national team of Qatar, and they are the least known quantity in this entire tournament. There will be 6 parts to these videos, and the first one is how they qualified. For Qatar, that's pretty easy. Since 1938, the host nation has qualified for the tournament automatically. But a very weird historical phenomenon's happening with Qatar. See, the Qatari national team has never been to the World Cup before. Ever. That's not to say they haven't gotten close. See, Qatar will be the first host nation to be debuting in the World Cup since Italy in 1934, who essentially didn't go in 1930 because it was in Uruguay and you couldn't even fly there back then. So this is a first, but it's safe to say the Qatari national team has built up to this moment. Qatar was part of the United Kingdom until 1970, and by 1990 they had a national team that was this close to the World Cup. They actually got as close to the World Cup as they've ever been in 1990. They were 1 point away. Led by 6 goals from Mahmoud Yassin Al Soufi, they came up 1 point behind the UAE, who conveniently actually made their only World Cup through this same qualification process. 1994 was a dud, but back in 1998, Qatar played in a wild group where they ended up 2 points out of the playoff and 4 points out of automatic qualification. This happened again in 2002, where they were once again 2 points out of the playoff positions in Asia. And then in the last 3 qualifying cycles they participated in, Qatar made the final round of Asian qualifying, 2010, 2014, and 2018. So Qatar has actually been a much better national team than you probably assumed for the last 32 years. Math. Well, they haven't been able to break through onto the World Cup stage. They actually hold a very important title right now. They are the reigning Asian champions. Qatar won Asia. That includes Japan, South Korea, Iran, Saudi Arabia. This was back in 2019, but they won their group against Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, North Korea. They beat all of them. They beat Saudi Arabia 2-0 behind 2 goals from Almoez Ali. More on him later. Then they beat 2007 Asian champions Iraq, then South Korea, then the UAE, okay, whatever. And then they beat Japan in the final. This tournament was played in the UAE, so perhaps it even provided a similar atmosphere to what Qatar is going to get in 2022. And I can absolutely promise you, the team was almost exactly the same. I know what you're thinking. It was 3 years ago, and oh, you've got this roster over here, and then all of a sudden they're going in the trash can. No, Qatar is a very stable national team because they've been preparing for this moment for a long time. And on the footballing side, they've done it very intelligently. Part of that was the Asian Cup was in the most recent continental championship Qatar has played in. And I know what you're thinking. I messed up the math, but I didn't. Qatari Airways sponsored the Gold Cup, which is the championship of CONCACAF, which happens every 2 years. So it happened in 2021, and Qatar was invited. Since us in the Western Hemisphere, we like to just invite teams to our continental championships, especially when they sponsor them. Qatar quickly earned its place, though. They drew Panama in the opening match. Los Canaleros got a penalty late in the game, but they went on to beat Honduras and Grenada to top the group with 7 points. They then jumped out to a 3-0 lead against upstart El Salvador in the quarterfinals, a draw, remember, they earned by winning their group, and held on for a 3-2 win before they gave the United States absolutely all we could handle. I watched the game, and granted our full A team wasn't on the field, but Qatar hung around until the 86th minute until Gyasi Zardes, why did it have to be Gyasi Zardes? Gyasi Zardes scored the winning goal for the US after Qatar missed a penalty. And we're the team that went on to win the Gold Cup. We beat Mexico in the final. The United States of America! Yeah! That means the last 2 continental competitions Qatar has played in, they've looked really good. They won Asia and they got to the Gold Cup semifinals and lost to the eventual winner while missing a penalty. Now for the player to watch though, and I've already said his name. It's Almoez Ali, because in the Gold Cup, he was the leading goal scorer. He won the Golden Boot in a continental competition that he grew up like 24 hours away from on an airplane. Ali scored 4 goals, nobody else scored more than 3. That's not as impressive as what he did in 2019. Almoez Ali scored 9 goals in the Asian Cup. 9. Nobody else, and this includes the likes of Sardar Azmoun and Eldar Shomurodov, guys that play in major European leagues, scored more than 4. Almoez Ali scored 9. He's played 76 matches and scored 39 goals. The guy was born in Sudan and moved to Qatar when he was like 5. He's been playing in the Qatari league system since he was 7. And because I'm me, I've watched him play multiple times. He is a lean 5'11" that is incredibly fluid and incredibly direct. He has pace, he absolutely knows where the goal is, and his entire name includes more letters than an entire bag of Scrabble tablets. What are those things? The things. But how is this team going to line up? Almoez Ali is an out-and-out striker, but the defense for Qatar is a problem. It popped up in the Gold Cup. They gave up multiple goals to El Salvador. They gave up freaking 3 goals to Panama, and in friendlies, they have struggled to keep the opponent out of the net as well. Their most recent friendly, a 2-2 draw with Chile, they look like this, at a 5-3-2, with Almoez Ali up top with Akram Afif, who is also a really good player. Their midfielder, and the guy that wears the armband, Sasan Al-Haidos, he has great technique and the ability to control the ball, and their midfield in general has a great touch. They can take the ball in and make the pass. They are going to look to counter and try and defend in numbers to survive. But I don't want to make it seem too much like they're the underdog. This is not a team that's going to be intimidated. This is a team that has played together for most or all of their professional lives, and they have been prepared for this moment. And they show themselves to be capable of hanging with, I think, anybody in the world. You're not going to get those 7-0 defeats that you might be expecting. They're not going to get blown out. They are going to be able to hang with teams, and maybe they lose the Netherlands by 3 goals, but it won't get ugly. They play hard, they play disciplined, and they have more technical ability than you think, and they have a star, which is what you need. Australia proved that conclusively with Tim Cahill. So what do their chances look like to get out of the group and actually threaten later in the competition? Obviously, they're not great. We simulated the World Cup 100 times on Football Manager. That link is right up there. And Qatar was actually the second worst team getting out of the group. But they weren't the worst. Saudi Arabia was. That speaks to the fact that while Qatar is not good, they're not as bad as you would think for a debutante. Now, they have no realistic chance to actually win the competition, but when it comes to being in a group where there's no pot 1 team, Qatar absolutely has the opportunity to cause an upset, and I do not think it is a huge stretch to assume they have a real shot to get out of the group. Senegal and Ecuador are not a bridge too far for Qatar to go to. If they have their best day and those teams don't have their best day, Qatar can touch them. The Netherlands might be a bridge too far, but getting out of the group is not something I want to put out of the realm of possibility, and I believe in real life they have a better chance to get out of the group than Football Manager actually gives them percentage-wise. My official percentage designation for them getting out of the group, though, is 15%. I don't think it's going to happen too much. But I also would be surprised if they got 0 points. They're going to ruin somebody else's World Cup, even if they don't make their own. And just like that, we're off and running with our official full World Cup preview. I'll see you tomorrow for team number 2. Also, if you want to watch that video actually of me simulating the World Cup 100 times, here's a link to it. I'll wait patiently.